naming angles is really important. There's several ways to name angles, and we can name them either with a point, like if I have, let's say, like this, and I have this labeled as A, this is B, this is C, this is D, this is E, and this is F. Well, if I said angle E, then that would be that angle. That's really simple. And that's the most basic of ways to name angles. And we use the angle symbol and then E. Now you will notice that in books and printed stuff, like on the computer, you will notice they don't quite write it that way. They write it like this. You really should do it with the angle arc in there, because otherwise that looks like a less than sign. The difference between a less than sign and a angle sign is the less than sign has the vertex up in the air. The angle sign has it down on the ground. However, when you're handwriting it, it's really easy to get sloppy, so we put an arc there to show the angle versus the less than sign. So let's look back at our example. If we look back here, see if I can go back in time. Right here at this example, we could name which one was angle E. However, if I want to talk about angle A, I'm not sure which one angle A is. Some people say, oh, no, angle A is this one right here. But really, angle A might be this one, because that A is really only referring to this intersection point right here. It's not where the letter A is written. So angle A could be any of those angles. It could be this angle. It could be this angle. So how do we know which angle we're talking about? Well, what we do is we then use 3 letters. And so to use the 3 letters, we use A as our middle letter. So if I want to refer to, let's say, this angle here, then I make sure that A is going to be in the middle. And so I say angle, and then I pick a point on one of the rays, let's say B, and then A is in the middle, and then E, or I could call it angle E, oops, that's on E, E, A, B. Notice, if I trace those out, I get the angle that I want. If I go angle B, A, E, and I'm following that, then I get the angle I wanted. Or if I follow in order E, A, B, I get the exact same angle. We need to make sure that A is in the middle, otherwise we won't have that angle named. Now, could I have called angle E something else? I could have called angle E something else. Let me just move these guys just a little bit smaller, but I'm going to put them right here next to angle E. And I could have called angle E something else. I could have called it, how about angle A, E, F? Because if I follow that, I go A, E, F. That's the same angle as angle E. And then I could have called it another thing, as many of you probably notice, I could have called it angle F, E, A. Notice E is staying in the middle every single time. F, E, A. And what I'm doing is I'm tracing out the direction in order. I went from F to E to A and traced out F, E, A, and that is how I name my angle. We need to be really careful that those are in order. If I said something like angle F, A, E, then when I go to trace it out, I go F to A to E, Well, that angle doesn't even appear in our picture, so that's not the angle we're looking for. We wanted the angle that went along here, and so we find any point. Do you see actually another way we could have named it? There's two other names we could have named this angle. A little bit tricky, but do you see that C is also along the angle? So we could have labeled it CEF. That's another name for that angle. Or we could have named it angle EF. That's the one we just did. Silly me. How about FEC? Lots of different names for the same angle. So we could call it angle E because there's only one angle E. Or we could have called it AEF or FEA or CEF or FEC. Lots of different names. So in summary, we use one letter only if there's only one of those angles possible. That's absolutely clear which angle we're talking about. And then we use three letters, with the middle letter being the vertex, if it's not clear which angle we're talking about. Or if we want, we can still call it three letters, even if we are clear which angle it's going to be with one letter. So let's take a look at this example here. Let's say I have a nice little rectangle. Let's divide it more or less into two squares. I have this, and I have MATH. Math is, and we can pretend fun is written after that. So I can name any angle because I've got every single vertex labeled. And so I can say, well, what are names that we could call this angle? Well, I could call this angle H because there's only one angle H. Or I could call it angle MHI. Or I could call it MHS. Or I could call it IHM. Or I could call it SHM. I think that's all the different things I could call it. How about this angle right in here? Where about this angle right here? What could we call that angle up there? Well, could we call it angle A? We can't call it angle A because angle A could be this angle A could be this angle, it could be lots of different other angles. So what can we call it? Well, we could call it angle IAS, or we could call it angle SAI. Okay, here's a question for you. What angle is angle SAM? What angle is angle SAM? Can you figure it out? Well, angle SAM would be this angle here, and so the inside of that angle is this whole thing here. So angle SAM clearly tells us what angle we're talking about. And that's all there is to naming angles.